Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jerry, and today we have my Week 5 review where I'm going to review every single game of Week 5. Coming a little bit late, had a lot of stuff going on at work, but we're going to get into it. So let's get into that Thursday night football game. Exciting one. Falcons-Buccaneers ends up going into overtime. Kirk goes for 500. It was a great game. It was honestly a great game for both teams. Honestly, at the end of the day, I mean, Kirk was just throwing the ball all over the field. Darnell Mooney had a great day. He did have two costly drops that almost cost him the game. But he gets a lot of yards. He makes a lot of plays for the team. And ends up being a big part in the win as much as he could have been a part in the loss. Drake London, of course, wanted to highlight his day too. He, early on too, he was just getting all the targets. And he was just open. He's a big target, and Kirk liked throwing him the ball. Younghoe Koo misses 2 field goals throughout the game, but then makes the 52-yarder to tie it to end up going to overtime. Now, the Buccaneers, on the other hand, they led most of the game. And again, they were playing football good. They were playing football. That's great news. They were playing good football all game. Baker Mayfield honestly didn't really look too bad. He had another good day, able to get the ball to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, even Cade Otton a little bit there. And then Bucky Irving has another great day. They ran the ball well. Specifically, Bucky Irving has a big run and was doing great on the ground. Rachaad White still needs to get things going, but he's always good out of the backfield. But the Buccaneers really just needed to get more pressure, and that's kind of what allowed Kirk to do what he did, getting 500 yards. You would think with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, they would have used more on the ground game but with them trailing the whole game, they end up doing it through the air. And, Younghoe Koo makes up for his misses in the beginning and ends up being a win for the Falcons in overtime. Next, we have the Vikings-Jets, which, the Jets, plenty more stories than before I made this graphic, especially with the news yesterday. And then, obviously, what everybody's talking about today with Aaron Rodgers Wednesday that they had this week. But then the old Sam Darnold showed up for this Vikings game. It was a rough day. He only had 179 yards. He was 14 for 31, so one of the worst completion percentages next to Josh Allen this week. And then he had the interception, no touchdowns. Pretty off week. You'd think that the Vikings would lose if Sam Darnold goes back to there. And they had no run game. I put 0 run game in there too because he just was not able. They weren't running the ball well. Obviously, Aaron Jones has the injury, so makes it difficult for them there. But Ty Chandler and who else was even in the backfield? I can't even remember. Just not able to get it done. But the Vikings defense able to win the game. They get 3 turnovers on Rodgers. Obviously, that's the bad side. For the Jets, Rodgers can't be throwing 3 interceptions. He threw the one right to Van Ginkel, and then he takes it to the house. And in a 6-point game, when you throw a pick 6, that ruins the game. They couldn't run the ball for shit either. Usually if Breece Hall doesn't have a good day, Braylon Allen's able to pick up a little bit of the slack. I say usually, it's only a few games into the season, but you get what I mean. But everyone needs to put it together because they just did not look great. It's either if the offense does well, which honestly they haven't really done well this year. At least if the passing game works, the run game doesn't. Run game works, pass game doesn't. And then the defense has been solid all year. But despite that, Robert Saleh gets fired, which I thought was crazy news. Talked to some of my friends and they were like, oh, it's about time. But I just can't imagine thinking that. I don't know why you would want Robert Saleh fired unless I guess maybe they knew something about in the office and in the actual locker room. Maybe there was more of an issue going on, but Robert Saleh being a defensive-minded coach and the Jets consistently having one of the better defenses. You have a guy like Rodgers come in who always did it well in Green Bay despite having bad defenses. In the couple years that he had some good defenses, he ends up in the Super Bowl, and he didn't really have many other good defenses. So you're thinking, okay, well, they got Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Garrett Wilson. They bring Lazard over there, Mike Williams. They want Devontae Adams, which is another conversation. And now Rodgers is forgetting how to play football. So he looked very, very, very just disrupted with his receivers, specifically, though, the O-line and Nathaniel Hackett, even the refs. He was just upset all over the place. So it was a rough day for Aaron Rodgers and for the Jets in general, especially losing Robert Saleh. Moving on to the Bears-Panthers, and that was in London, too. Bears will be in London next week, but they're able to take down the Panthers, and it wasn't even close. It was Caleb's best game by a mile, 20 for 29, over 300 yards again. Only Bears rookie to ever have 2 300-yard games in a season. And then I saw later there's a stat that actually all other Bears rookies in history have combined for 2 300-yard passing games, which granted, Caleb's record is 1-1 in those 300-yard games. So you can't really look too far into that. But I think the Bears could be dangerous later because they've still consistently had one of the best defenses in the league. I think they're stopping the run could use a little bit of work. And then obviously Chuba Hubbard, that's a main positive for the Panthers here, is Chuba Hubbard looks great. And that's been a downside, honestly, of the Bears is, people have been able to run the ball on them, but their defensive back room is ranked 1 in the league. And they're honestly just all around doing well, getting pressure with Gervon Dexter, which is what we're going to talk about next. Jaquan Brisker, Gervon Dexter, great games. The Bears end up forcing 3 turnovers in total, 2 fumbles and a pick. Gervon Dexter had a sack, 4 quarterback hits, and that fumble recovery. So great game for him. He's got 4 sacks on the season. And for being an interior defensive lineman, he's really made a statement in the pass rush game this year and been a huge stopper. You have Andrew Billings in there to kind of stop the run and be that plug that can pretty much take away 2 gaps. And then you've got Gervon Dexter, who can kind of help there too, but has also been really good in the pass rush game from the interior, forcing quarterbacks to either flush out or forcing them into the hands of the edge rusher. So great game for him. Now the Panthers, on the other hand, look like they're starting to gain traction with Andy Dalton. And then, they play the best defensive back room in the league, and Andy Dalton really wasn't able to pass the ball very much. So and then the Panthers defense, on the other hand, was awful. They weren't really able to get much pressure on Caleb, and it was usually just one guy to where he could kind of do his Houdini stuff, as they called it, and kind of spin out or run around and make plays, which, of course, you're not going to get with, every other quarterback in the league. There's only probably about 10 or 12 that are going to be able to make those special plays, rolling out and escaping pressure. But the defense just wasn't really able to get much pressure against a pretty sad Bears offensive line so far. Bill Murray, not the actor, but the backup Bears guard, ends up having one of the highest ranked offensive line grades of the season for the Bears. So it looks like he'll get more playing time moving forward. But great game for the Bears. They end up winning this one 36-10 on a massive win, and they have to go on to play the 1-4 Jaguars next week in London. And then we go on to the Bengals Ravens. What a game. Burrow Chase still goes crazy. I mean, 10 for 193, 2 touchdowns for Jamar Chase. T. Higgins had 9 for 83 and 2 touchdowns. And Joe Burrow ends up having a massive game, 392 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a pick. Just honestly, a great offensive game for both teams. We'll go right over to Lamar's near perfect day, 26 for 42, 348, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He has 12 for 55. He does have a fumble, but that's why it's a near perfect day, just because he fumbled. But that's really ended up being not a huge deal. Obviously, a close game. And when your defense isn't really bailing you out, you got to hold on to the ball. But Burrow had his interception. Lamar had his fumble. And then King Henry had another day, 15 for 92 and a touchdown. But the Bengals just couldn't stop Lamar Jackson. He was just unstoppable on offense. And we knew that Lamar and Henry backfield was going to be incredible, and it still is. But when Lamar's able to throw for 350, that's just unbelievable. But the Bengals, honestly, they're starting to look like the Bengals again. But unfortunately, by that I mean, not playing good defense, having to play these shootouts on offense, and it's just kind of a toss-up if they win. It did look like a very early season Bengals, but you're hoping as a Bengals fan that they're not still in that week 1, 2, 3 mode of these last few years in week 5. So, and then the Ravens, on the other hand, obviously record didn't start off too well, and the defense does need to be better, but are they a contender? I would say yes. I think despite their bad record, I think they're a top team in this league. And it's not even a bad record at 3-2. It's just, you'd hope that they'd win those two. They have a loss to the Raiders, for God's sake. So I end up getting my pick right here with the Ravens winning 41-38, but probably closer than they would want. And then this is going to be a quick one here. Are the Patriots, I put changes at quarterback. Obviously, they decided to start Drake May. Jacoby Brissett's going to be out. And honestly, the O-line's been playing well for the Patriots, which is kind of a surprise to me for Jacoby Brissett, because the run game had usually been pretty good, especially with Ramondre Stevenson, unless he's fumbling, which they tell him that he's going to get less time, and he ends up getting more touches. And I think he was near leading in receiving. So, which isn't saying much considering they only scored 10 points, but the running backs all over the place for the Dolphins. Jalen Wright, you've got A-Chain, you've got Mostert, whoever you want to start, they're going to be able to do well. But they need to get Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle involved. That's a big mistake, not getting them involved. I know it's tougher with Snoop Huntley in there, trying to, he's got to be the one to pass it to him, but put him in the backfield. They didn't even really have any carries. Those guys, the whole point of why they're so talented in the NFL is because when they have the ball in their hand, they're very talented. So got to find some better ways. Mike McDaniel, I know you can find a better way to get them the ball. So you're going to have to do that, but they do get the win 15-10 against one of the worst teams in the league in the Patriots. Next, we have the Commanders, Browns. I just put who's going to stop Washington because it doesn't seem like they're going to be stopped. Dan Quinn and the defense is shutting down all the teams that they play. And then even if it is a shootout, Jaden Daniels is doing incredible things that the NFL has never seen from a quarterback, much less as a rookie. So I think J.J. Watt said it today on Pat McAfee. He said Jaden Daniels the only quarterback ever through five games at all, not even first 5 games, not first 5 games of a career, not just any 5 games ever in history, any 5-game span. Nobody's ever rushed for 1,000 yards, passed for 1,000 yards, rushed for 300, and had a 75% completion percentage or higher, which is getting a little nitpicky there. But the fact that nobody's ever done that in a 5-game span in history, and Jaden Daniels has done that in his first 5 ever, is incredible. So great for them. The Browns, who knows what the hell they're going to do. Deshaun Watson's looking like shit. It's about time to put Jameis Winston in. I don't know why that hasn't come up more. Because I know they're paying Deshaun Watson a lot of money, but you got to see something else. Deshaun Watson's not playing honestly, like any Deshaun Watson ever before. He looks worse than college. Clemson? I don't even remember where he went to college. Deshaun Watson. So they just need to do something. Nick Chubb, hopefully going to be coming back soon, but I think they're going to need more than Nick Chubb. The defense is normally kind of a strong suit, but you let up 34 points in this one. Myles Garrett can't do it all, so a lot of problems for the Browns in this 34-13 loss. Actually got, it's not on the screen here, but I predicted 38-20 in this one, so very close in the prediction, 34-13. If you watch my prediction videos, we've been very close. Spread was correct in this one too. I was off by 3 in the Jaguars Colts. I predicted 20-17. I didn't think there would be this much scoring, but the Jaguars end up getting 37, Colts 34. So just a big day on offense. The first win, obviously. T-Law looks like he's supposed to, and the Jaguars might have the worst defense in the NFL. And statistically in this DB ranking that I've been talking about, they do have the worst DB room by a mile, which should be interesting to see go up against Caleb Williams in London. Could consider it a get-right game. You got a rookie quarterback traveling over to London, and the defense, specifically the DBs, need to show that they can be better. But big day for Tank Bigsby, big day for Brian Thomas Jr. Honestly, on offense, Flacco and Alex Pierce had a great day too, but the defense stunk. Travon Walker on the Jaguars had a big day, 3 sacks, able to get through that Colts offensive line. Travon Walker finally doing something to make himself look like a first overall pick. But yeah, Colts defense really just needs to get their shit together. That's honestly the biggest problem, especially now that Flacco's been able to put up points. This Jaguars offense has been pretty horrible, honestly, through the start of the year. So for them to start looking good against the Colts, not a great look in the division, but Jaguars end up getting the dub 37-34. Again, predicted the spread right on the nose there. So let's get into this next one. Texans Bills. This is another one predicted exactly. I guessed it was going to be 3. I guess 31-28 ends up being 23-20. I think it was too close for comfort there. It was a lackluster revenge game for Stefon Diggs. He only had like 6 for, I don't know, it was like 6 for 60 or something. It just wasn't super exciting. Nico Collins obviously goes down, is going to be out for a few weeks, which is not great for this team. Obviously, Tank Dell stock goes up when Nico's goes down. But yeah, the defense just locked down the Bills. Josh Allen, 9 for 30. For like 100 yards. It was just a horrible game. And they couldn't put a solid drive together. Bills looked horrible on third down, couple 3-and-outs. And the Bills are just looking like this very hit or miss team. They're either going to stomp a team, blow them out in a huge win, or it's just going to be like a close loss or even a big loss we saw last week. So these 2 losses for the Bills, I at one point had them at the top of the league, and then they have a couple bad weeks. And unfortunately, the Bills they're very streaky. So I think what's going to have to happen, I've talked about it last year too, is the Bills really need to get their hot streak going late in the season. So if this is their slum, their little slow streak, I think they're probably going to need to get going in the next couple games. They'll probably need another slum and to end up like 10-7 and then get streaky into the playoffs if they're going to be able to actually go for a championship. But they're doing well despite losing Stefon Diggs, despite losing a lot of their defensive pieces. So I think what they've been doing is good. And honestly, it was a close game for Josh Allen going for like 9 for 30. If you told me it was a 3-point game against the Texans, but that's who the Texans have been. They've just won these close games. They haven't really shut any team out, by like a 30-point win or anything like even the Saints have. But the Texans, I still think they need to be better, if they're going to be a contender. And for whatever reason, I'm still kind of saying that the Bills could be a contender. But again, I think it's contingent on, their streakiness. So next we have the Broncos Raiders. The Broncos finally starting to put it together, specifically Bo Nix. Another pretty good game for him. I think Sean Payton's development has been good. He kind of saw, Bo Nix has been good on time and getting these short, quicker throws. And that's kind of what he's doing. He's kind of playing to his strong suits, and he's able to do this against the Raiders. Obviously, the Raiders having some issues on defensive line. They have the trade rumors about Devontae Adams, and it's just a tough time. They bench Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. I put Aiden O'Connell to start as a question, but today they do announce that he's going to be the start. But yeah, the Broncos defense has been hot all year, and now that the offense is putting it together, it's kind of a similar situation to the Bears, where you've got, Caleb Williams is finally starting to put it together, and the defense is one of the top in the league, and that's how the Broncos have been. You've got PS2, who can basically just shut down whoever your wide receiver 1 is, and the rest of the defense just kind of does what it needs to do. So a great game, honestly, for the Broncos. Again, it's against the Raiders, so can't look too much into it. A lot of problems going on with the Raiders, but a big win for the Broncos, 34-18. They take them down. Next, we have the 49ers Cardinals, which was honestly the upset of the week for me. Strong first half, maybe not. We'll talk about some other upsets in a quick second here, but super strong first half. I mean, if we look here, it's just polar opposites. We've got strong first half for the 49ers. We have a slow start for the Cardinals. Really weren't able to get much going at all early on. So I think James Conner had like 7 carries for 9 yards or something in the first half, and then ends up getting like 70 in the second half and has a great day. But poor ball security in the second half by the 49ers. Brock Purdy can't turn the ball over like that. Jordan Mason puts it on the ground. And, people are starting to say, should Shanahan be on the chopping block, which I think is just a crazy thing. Like, he still has one of the best offenses in the game. Now, we have to remember, Brock Purdy's an undrafted free agent who has been balling out since he came into the league. And oh no, he had a bad game. Like, what if 2 years into Patrick Mahomes being Patrick Mahomes, he had a really good game and we said, oh, should Andy Reid not be I guess, and the other thing you'd have to factor in is they've had a stretch of a few bad games here. So let's say Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have a stretch of, 3 or 4 really bad games. Are we going to say, oh, is it time to fire Andy Reid? I don't think so. Granted, Andy Reid has the Super Bowls, might not be comparable, but I just think it's crazy to think that he should be on the chopping block. Although it is a conversation that's coming up, is he a part of the problem? And I can't see that to be true. I think it's still very impressive how good Brock Purdy's been and how well Brock Purdy has suited this offense. So I think 49ers are just having a bit of a slum. Bills do it all the time. But yeah, the Cardinals, on the other hand, they capitalize on the turnovers and are able to drive the ball down the field, have a phenomenal fourth quarter. It didn't even really, they only got a field goal. That was the only score in the third quarter. But they turn on the Jets and score those last 10 points in the fourth quarter. And but I think they would have been a lot better off if they'd show more Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison Jr., he needs to get the ball more. In these games, granted they win this game, they're too close because he's not getting the ball, and he is a weapon. So we need to see him get the ball more. I think the Cardinals will be a lot better, but an exciting win for the Cardinals, 24-23 over the 49ers. Next, we have Rams and the Packers. They need their O-line back. They need their receivers back. They lost the turnover battle, but it's Matt Stafford. You kind of expect that. Defense did enough. They get the interception, pretty much in the end zone, get the pick six on Jordan Love there. But Kyren Williams fumbling and Stafford throwing a pick, you can't have those mistakes, especially they skipped out on a field goal. They went for it on 4th and goal from the 4 early on, and they didn't get it. If they have that field goal at the end of the game, they're on like the 36-yard line. You're in potential field goal range. Would have been a far one for Cardi, I think his name is. I can't remember his first name, but would have been a long field goal, but 6 points wins you this game. So because they don't take their points there, and then again, you can kind of play it out. Oh, well, they probably wouldn't have went for that 2-point conversion, yada, yada. But I just think, tough game for the Rams, and you can't, it's tough to blame them because with all the injuries they're dealing with, you don't want to make excuses, but I still think that this Rams team is better than the score shows or how they played. Rams just lost last week 18-24, following week, I guess, to the Bears. And it was another one where they had a close game. Stafford was able to throw the ball well, and it just wasn't enough in the end. And I think if you have Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua back, you have at least some more of your offensive linemen in, you're going to have a much better day. And I still think the Rams are a good football team. It's just tough to give any proof of it with how bad they've been playing with all these depth pieces in. But the Love play has dropped. Jordan Love, again, going against a very young defensive line, gets sacked a few times in this one. And obviously the pressure on the pick six, and, the bad choice of the pick six could have been the reason they lost this game. Again, if the Rams just take their field goal and take their points, the Packers horrible on third down. They were 1 for 8, not just 1/8. I don't know. I guess it just automatically did that when I open up the slide here. But 1 for 8 on third down. Normally can't win a game when you do that. Especially when you gift the other team an interception for a touchdown. So obviously injury over there on the Packers side as well, with Christian Watson out and Romeo Doubs suspended for the game, which that's another interesting story. Maybe we'll key in on in the picks video coming up tomorrow. But they win despite their injuries and are able to come out with the W, but it wasn't a pretty one. Packers win 24-19. Next, I'm just going to read what I put in the box here because it frustrated me the whole time. Why didn't they run the ball? I just don't understand why they didn't run the ball. Can anyone explain why they didn't run the ball? Because the Seahawks normally, so you have Kenneth Walker. He's pretty good, right? He's been great this year, actually. And then you have Zach Charbonnet, who is a starting caliber running back in this league. And when he has to sub in, he does great. How many carries did they have, Jerry? Well, Kenneth Walker had 5 carries for 19, and Zach Charbonnet had 2 for 11. Oh, okay. Well, what about Geno Smith? Oh, he had 4 for 72. So that makes their number overall look good. But that also shows that they ran the ball 11 times, and 4 of those were with their quarterback. They have 2 great running backs in the league. They didn't give them the ball. And you say, well, Jerry, maybe they were trailing the whole time. No, they were winning the whole game. All you have to do is just run the ball. And I don't understand why they didn't. The Giants, on the other hand, what did they do? They ran the fuck out of the ball. And how do you take the fuck out of the ball? I guess you give it to Tyrone Tracy Jr. every time because they go Devin Singletary's out. Oh, let's give it to this Tyrone Tracy Jr. guy. Oh, 18 carries for 129 yards. He has a great game. Big upset. Giants over the Seahawks. Nobody thought the Giants were going to win. 7-point dogs in this one. And Then the Giants get the game sealing. They get a field goal block and take it for a touchdown to make it look like it was out of hand. It was really, well, it was a one score game for the whole entire game. That's why I don't understand why the Seahawks didn't run the ball. That's why they lost at the end of the day. The Seahawks also, they did have some O-line issues, so I don't know. They were allowing a lot of pressure on all these pass plays too. 7 sacks and 6 TFLs for the Giants defense, who have not, I mean, they have a pretty good defensive line. I'd give them that. Kayvon Thibodeaux, and Brian Burns is over there. So good day for him, but it ends up just so, and they still got the ball into the playmaker's hands. So you have Kenneth Walker at 7 receptions for 57 receiving yards, and then Charbonnet had 3 for 19. But you shouldn't have your power back and your definitely like run first back getting 10 receptions, but only 7 carries. It's just, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Giants win 29-20. It was a mess. And then we have Steelers Cowboys. Is Pickens always fucking open? I would say no in this game. And then even if he is open, unfortunately, you got Justin Fields has got to get him the ball. And I've said that Justin Fields has fixed a lot of his problems. The one that he still hasn't fixed is seeing a wide receiver open. So he can't really throw with anticipation very good. Now, I have noticed on crossing routes, it's been a little bit better, but like on a curl route or something, or a stick or a stop of any sort, he waits for them to be turned around, sees that the corners or whoever's guarding them is far away, then throws the ball. Isn't really great at throwing it with the anticipation there. And I think that's been a problem. And just some little timing issues with Justin Fields. But they're still just being, I've been asking for them to open it up, give Justin Fields a little bit more of an opportunity. So let's look at the stats here. Pittsburgh had 6 drives of less than 4 plays, and all 3 other drives resulted in points that were 5 plays or more. So they only had 3 drives that were 5 plays or more, and they all resulted in score. That's when they got their touchdown. That's when they got their other touchdown. And that's when they got their field goal. Dallas, on the other hand, had 1 3-and-out, and they had 2 15-plus yard play drives. So they had a 15 and a 16, took up most of the clock, and just kind of dinked and dunked down the field. On top of that, we talked about Justin Fields not really throwing the ball that far down the field. Now, this is completions. This doesn't even factor in after the catch. What was the longest completion for Justin Fields? 21 yards. And how many did he have over 20? Just that one. So just awful. Like, it's just a very contained, very simple, very short, very horizontal offense. And they're basically trying to win the game off of defense, running the ball, and short dink and dunk passes. And they're going to get wins doing that. They've shown that they can do that, but it's also in these last 2 games, it's shown that that's not going to be sustainable. And you're going to play against some other teams that are going to be able to huck the ball down the field, put up points every time, or not every time, but more often than they are. And you're going to run into some problems. Dak, despite him having 2 interceptions and a fumble, he threw it to 5 receivers for 20-yard completions. There was 5 different receivers. Justin Fields had 1 for 21. One of, Dax was 48 yards. So it was just, with all these little short dink and dunk, if they don't get it, they go 3-and-out. They end up having, what did I say, six drives. So I think there was 4 that were 3-and-outs. There was 1 that was 2 and then a fumble. And then there was 1 that was a 4-play drive. But you just, when your defense is on the field, your defense is getting tired, and they're still holding TJ Watt. He ends up with a sack and a half. It just ends up being a bad day for him. But Jalen Dolbert steps up, and honestly, with, it looked like CeeDee Lamb, not that he was locked up, but he was a little bit more covered, or maybe Dak wasn't seeing him open, or maybe he was taking advantage of the coverage on CD to get the ball to Tolbert. But he had a great day. Dowdle averaged almost 5 a carry and was able to run the ball well, look like a starting running back for once. But Dak does need to clean up the turnovers. Close game. Steelers had a chance to win. But it's mainly because of those turnovers. He had 2 picks and a fumble, so you can't be doing that. They do get the win anyway. Cowboys 20, Steelers 17 next. And finally, we have the Chiefs. Juju has a day. Kelsey has a day. Carr goes down. What happened to the Saints? Well, I'll tell you what happened in the first 2 games with the Saints. Now, granted, they were able to get up early in scoring. they ran the ball well, and that was honestly the big thing for the Saints early on. And you would say, oh well, the stats are all inflated because as you go up and you're winning, you're going to run the ball more. But even with all the carries that they had, Alvin Kamara in the first 2 games averaged like 5.5 yards a carry and was running the football very well. In this game, he had 11 carries for 26 yards and wasn't able to get the ball going at all anywhere on the run game. Now, also, I think it hurts having Taysom Hill out. I think he throws an extra element in there that could make it difficult for a defense to stop. So obviously, with him being injured, I think it has an effect on it. But when Kamara can really only be used out of the backfield, it causes problems. The Saints' only touchdown ends up being on a bomb to Rashid Shaheed, which just seems like that's going to happen once a game. That's not going to be sustainable. You have two receptions for 10 yards for Chris Olave. Chris Olave is a star receiver. He should be a top receiver. I would say, if he's getting the targets, getting the ball thrown to him, getting the opportunity, he could be a top 10, no lower than probably 15, just off the top of my head, receiver in the league. He should be, at least as far as his talent goes. And he only got targeted 4 times in this game, just made it very difficult. So the Saints not being able to get anything going on offense, and the Chiefs defense evidently just shutting him out, allows Patrick Mahomes throws for 300. He gets 130 yards or to Juju Smith-Schuster, who nobody's heard his name since TikTok on the Steelers years ago, but he's back and doing it. And then, filling in for Rashee Rice well. I think a good get back game for Juju. And then obviously Travis Kelce showing out again is great to see from him. And then are the Chiefs back? I think it's weird to say that with their 5-0, but all the other games were like really close and they didn't really look like they were dominating the game. It was kind of, they won last second. It was they've all been 1-score games, so very close games, but the Chiefs finally look like the Chiefs again and get the win 26-13 over the Saints. Let's go to our week 5 leaders. We have Kirk Cousins, 42 for 58, 509 yards, obviously took the cake there. We talked about Baker Mayfield and his good passing. He had about 250, 3 touchdowns, and 137.4 passer rating, so he ends up having the highest passer rating there. Kareem Hunt, the Chiefs, having the lead and having a decent lead most of the game, able to run the ball a lot, and they hand it to him a lot, 27 times. End up not being the highest rusher. He does break 100 yards, but Tyrone Tracy, we talked about him, 18 for 129. He ends up being the winner there. Garrett Wilson finally getting targets for the Jets, but obviously with their flaws in their offense and their inability to run the ball and Rodgers' ability to throw it to the other team, they lose that one. Jamar Chase receiving yards, we talked about him at 193 and 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins also having 92 and 2 touchdowns. And then another 2 touchdown guy, DJ Moore, goes for 105 and 2 touchdowns. But we're not talking about touchdowns. We're talking about next is tackles. Roquan Smith and rookie Trevin Wallace for the Panthers ends up with 15 tackles. The Panthers defense spent a lot of time on the field, as did the Ravens. So that's where you get all those tackles from. And then Travon Walker has 3 tackles and 3 TFLs. We talked about him earlier having a great game. Finally, in this game at least, looking like a number 1 pick. And then most offensive yards is not hard to find, with Kirk Cousins having 509. The total offense is 550, and then the Commanders allow only 212 on the Browns. So fun facts for this week: the Indianapolis Colts have not won a home game. Not won a game in a home game. Where did I get that? A game in Jacksonville in 11 years, which is a crazy stat because they are in their division. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have not been this super power team. But Caleb Williams, first Bears rookie to ever throw 2 300-yard games. Yes, it's been 5 games. We talked about that earlier. There's also only 2 rookie 300-yard Bears games ever in history other than Caleb's 2. So he has matched the rest of Bears rookie history. So the Bears have also allowed 21 points or fewer than 21 points in 11 straight games. That's the longest current streak in the NFL, and the average points in the NFL allowed is 21.4. So the fact that they've allowed under that it's a massive deal. And then the Bears also have an 8 straight They've won 8 straight home games, longest streak since their 05 to 06 team when they had 10. So that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you think down below of this review and of all the teams. We're going to have a power ranking video coming out shortly where I'll go in depth a little bit more as to why I have teams ranked where they are. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a great day.